I wasn't supposed to stay the night. Just drop off a few groceries, check on Mom, and drive back to the city before dark. But when the rain started, she insisted, "Stay, honey, it's late. You can take my bed." Mom's little house sat at the edge of a forgotten street, the kind where time moved slower. The neighbor's house was barely 10 meters away, always dark except for one window. Every morning when Mom called me, she mentioned him, Mr. Dalton, such a polite man, always watching out for me. When I arrived, I saw him right away. Standing behind his curtain. Perfectly still. I waved, awkwardly. He didn't wave back, just stared. That night, after Mom went to bed, I sat in the living room scrolling through my phone. The rain drummed on the roof, a steady whisper. Then a flicker, motion sensor light outside. I looked up and saw him again, this time in Mom's backyard. He wasn't moving. Just standing by the fence, head tilted slightly, like he was listening. I froze. Maybe he was checking something, maybe helping Mom with something earlier. I tried to convince myself of that. But when I checked the clock, it was 12:37 a.m. I whispered, "Mom?" No answer. Her door was closed. When I turned back toward the window, he was gone. I waited for the motion light to turn off. It didn't. Then, slow and quiet, I heard footsteps on the wet porch. The porch light glared into the living room, pale and cold. I stayed still on the couch, my phone trembling in my hand, the brightness of the screen making me feel exposed. Whoever, whatever, was out there, could see me if they looked hard enough through the window. I typed a message to my mom, "Are you awake? Someone's outside." No response. The old wooden floor creaked somewhere in the hallway. I held my breath, every muscle locked. Then I heard it, not from inside, but just beyond the door, a soft scrape, like shoes sliding against wet wood. I crept to the light switch, turned everything off. Darkness swallowed the room. Only the porch light remained, casting long shadows through the thin curtains. And in the middle of that pale light, a shape. Tall. Still. Facing the door. I thought I saw movement, a tilt of the head, a slow breath. My heart hammered so loud I was sure he could hear it. I backed away and slipped into Mom's room. She was asleep, peaceful, her breathing steady. I whispered her name, but she didn't stir. I didn't want to scare her yet, or maybe I didn't want to admit how scared I was. I went to the window above her bed and peeked out. The rain had stopped. The neighbor's yard was still. But the motion light stayed on. The one thing that felt wrong wasn't what I saw, it was what I didn't. Mr. Dalton's curtains were open. And behind the glass, I saw him, standing inside his house. That didn't make sense. Because a moment ago, he'd been on our porch. I blinked. He was still there, his face hidden in the shadows, hands at his sides. Not moving. Not blinking. I tried to rationalize, maybe there were two people? Maybe I was imagining it? But then, almost imperceptibly, his head turned toward me. Slowly. Deliberately. I ducked. My pulse roared in my ears. When I finally looked up again, the curtain across the yard had fallen shut. In the morning, Mom acted like nothing had happened. She hummed while making coffee, her old radio murmuring weather updates. "Mom," I said, "do you actually know Mr. Dalton?" She smiled. "Of course. He moved in about, must be 5 years ago? Very quiet man. Keeps to himself. Have you ever talked to him? Like face to face?" She frowned slightly. "Not exactly. He waves through the window sometimes. And once he left a note in my mailbox, reminding me to lock my gate. Such a sweet man." Her tone was casual, but her eyes darted toward the window like a reflex. I followed her gaze. The curtains next door were open again. He was standing there. Same position. Same tilt of the head. Only this time, he was smiling. Later, I decided to prove to myself that everything was normal. I'd go next door, introduce myself, maybe even laugh about it. But when I stepped outside, the air felt different, heavy, like it was listening. His lawn was overgrown. The mailbox was rusted shut. The path to the porch was covered in damp leaves. I knocked on the door. The sound echoed, hollow and deep. No answer. I tried again. Louder. Still nothing. Then, behind me, a creak, like a gate swinging open. I turned. The side gate between his house and Mom's was wide open now, though I was sure it had been locked the night before. I took one cautious step back, and my shoe sank slightly into mud. When I looked down, I saw footprints. Bare. Human. Leading from the gate, to my mother's porch. My chest tightened. I followed them with my eyes. They stopped right at the front door. The one he'd stood in front of last night. I ran back inside and locked it, my hands shaking. Mom looked up from her crossword, startled. "What's wrong, dear?" I told her about the footprints. About the light. About how he seemed to be in two places at once. She looked confused, then softly said, "Honey. Mr. Dalton died last spring. Didn't I tell you?" The room went silent. The radio buzzed faintly in the background. I stared at her, waiting for her to say she was joking. But then, outside, the porch light flicked on again. We both turned toward the window. And there, standing exactly where he'd been before, in that same still, unnatural way, was Mr. Dalton. Mom's words hung in the air. Mr. Dalton died last spring. I wanted to believe she was mistaken, that she'd mixed up names, that this was all some eerie coincidence. But the way she said it, calm, certain, made my stomach drop. Outside, the light still burned. The figure still stood there. "Mom," I whispered, "lock your door. Please." She hesitated, like she didn't understand the urgency, then obeyed. The sound of the bolt sliding into place felt too quiet, too thin. I grabbed my phone, opened the browser, and searched, Mr. Dalton, obituary, Greenvale. There it was, his name, his age, his house number. Found deceased in his home after a heart attack. The date was 6 months ago. I scrolled down. One photo. It was the same face I'd seen through the curtain, the same still, blank expression. I looked up. He was gone. The light outside flickered once, then went dark. Mom didn't seem rattled. "Maybe it's a motion sensor glitch," she said softly, as if to calm me. But she avoided looking toward the window. "Mom, you said he left you notes?" She nodded. "Just once or twice. In my mailbox. Kind reminders. Do you still have them?" "I think so." Drawer near the phone. I opened the drawer. Inside were 2 folded pieces of paper, yellowed with time. The handwriting was neat, precise. "Mrs. L, please remember to lock your back gate at night. Someone has been walking near the fence again." The second note was dated April 12. 2 days after his obituary. My skin went cold. "Mom," I said, "this." Then the phone in my hand buzzed. A text. Unknown number. "You shouldn't have come back." I stared at the message until it blurred. When I looked toward Mom, she was already moving toward the kitchen window, peeking out through the curtain. Her voice trembled for the first time. "He's in the yard again." I ran to her side. The porch light was off, but moonlight caught the edge of something, movement, slow, deliberate. The gate was open again. Mom whispered, "He just stands there. Every night since spring." I thought I was imagining it. I didn't answer. My pulse felt like a drum inside my chest. A soft tap came from the back door. Once. Then twice. Like fingers testing the wood. I stepped back, pulling Mom with me. The sound stopped. And then, from the other side of the door, a faint voice. "Come. Mail. Mrs. L. You forgot to lock the gate again. Mom's hand tightened around mine. She looked pale, fragile. That's his voice, she whispered. I tried to speak but nothing came out. The knob turned slightly. Click. Click. Stopped. Then silence. We waited for what felt like an hour before I dared move. I went to the window, nothing outside. Just wet grass and the faint glint of the open gate. Mom, we're leaving. Tonight. She didn't argue. We packed quickly, barely speaking, her hands shaking as she folded clothes into an old duffel bag. When I stepped outside to load the car, I saw something lying on the porch. A single sheet of paper, damp from the rain. The same handwriting. Thank you for keeping her company tonight. You should lock the gate before you go. We drove off without looking back. I kept glancing in the mirror anyway, half expecting to see that porch light flicker on again. It didn't. A week later, when I called Mom to check on her, she said she was fine. Quiet now, she told me. Peaceful. But as we talked, I heard something faint in the background. A soft creak. Like a door opening. Then she said, almost absently, "Oh, he waved this morning. I think he's glad you came by." The line went dead.